reactions vary to the president's visit. A pastor and civil rights leader says the John Paul II Shrine or any house of worship is hardly in a position to turn away anyone. Pastor Eugene Rivers III says it is a difficult situation, but the issue of religious freedom should transcend partisanship, and Christ himself often met with those that others disapproved of. Pastor Rivers says, quote, "I don't see how a shrine or other house of worship can turn down a visit by anyone who wants to pay their respects or pray there, let alone the president. Those who call the president a sinner should remember that Jesus regularly caused scandal by eating and welcoming those who were seen as unpopular or inappropriate during his lifetime." Pastor Rivers also says that Jesus welcomes everyone, including President Trump. For more on this story, including a look at the president's visit to a church near the White House that was burned during rioting, go to CatholicNewsAgency.com. And coming up later in the show, we hear from Sam Brownback, U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi criticized the force used against a crowd of protesters late yesterday before President Trump walked from the White House to St. John's Episcopal Church, which was damaged in weekend riots. Correspondent Erik Rosales reports now from Capitol Hill. Erik.
Well, Tracy, although Republicans saw it as a show of strength, Democratic leaders from both sides of the Capitol say that President Trump's actions last night were, quote, a political stunt. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is zeroing in on it and is pushing for bold action.
The Department of Defense IG must immediately launch an investigation into how the U.S. military was used and whether it was consistent with the laws of our nation.
Criticism after police used tear gas last night to disperse crowds outside the White House, clearing the way for President Trump to walk to St. John's Episcopal Church. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff checked in on the D.C. National Guard.
Allow freedom to assemble and freedom of speech. That's perfectly fine. We support that. We took an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America to do that, and to protect everyone's rights, and that's what we do.
And while decrying violent protests, the Democratic leader expressed understanding.
Violence, wherever it occurs, is wrong. But not prosecuting law enforcement when they break the law with the same intensity as protesters when they break the law is wrong as well.
I asked protesters outside the Capitol yesterday, why use violence?
It's easy to say, oh, you don't want the violence to continue. Well, we tried it peacefully. So what is the other alternative?
Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham advises.
I would urge the protester and the police to work together. The looters are undercutting the protesters' cause. They're putting the police at risk. So it seems to be some common ground between the protester and the police to deal with the rioter.
Senator Graham says the Judiciary Committee will be holding a hearing about police misconduct June 16th, and members of the Congressional Black Caucus are working on legislation right now about police misconduct. Tracy?
Correspondent Erik Rosales reporting from Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Erik.